take there, huh? Oh, I'm sorry. It's okay. Today we're here with the second episode of Dude, Where's My Money? Going to be talking about student debt and how that is progressing in our economy. Obviously, it's a hot topic with, I don't even want to talk about that.
$1.5 trillion in student debt. So it's like obviously at the top of everybody's mind right now. And the politicians out there, you know, obviously the Democratic debates has been, everybody's talking about how to better alleviate those debts. And so what we're going to talk about today is just kind of look at a high level what's going on, but also help those out there who are struggling with student debt to come up with some strategies on how to deal with it for the time being. Hope you guys enjoy the episode. Welcome to the second episode of Dude, Where's My Car? Or Dude, Where's My Money? Of course, we're copying off of Dude, Where's My Car? Yeah. But welcome to Dude, Where's My Money? And today's topic is going to be student debt. A big hot topic right now, obviously, as it is being brought up amongst all the politicians. Specifically, I know Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are two of the candidates out there that have proposed something of meaningful value that is getting a lot of people talking. Do you, Ian, want to speak a little bit more to what Bernie is talking about?
Yeah, and so what it is right, there's this ever-growing pile of student debt in our economy. It's going up to like 1.6 trillion. I want to say not even 10 years ago was it half that. So it's just growing at such a rapid rate. So clearly there's an outcry from everyone as to how are we going to fix this issue. Based off of how many borrowers that are out there right now, the average student loan debt is around $30,000 to $35,000 per person. So it's meaningful. It's a meaningful amount, and I think people are trying to find a solution as to, you know, whether it's wiping the slate clean or some other format of making it easier for people to pay it off. People are looking for a solution.
Yeah, I mean, $35,000 in debt is a pretty stressful number.
100%, and it's a lot more for certain folks, right? So, like, I know we've even seen talked to a bunch of people who have $100,000, $200,000 of student
seen as much as $500,000. It's crazy. And I mean, to put it into perspective, for every $10,000 you borrow, I think it's $100 a month in payment if you want to be on a 10-year standard repayment schedule. So, for those that want to equate that, if you've borrowed $50,000, that's a $500 a month car payment. So think, do most people coming out of college, can they afford two cars?
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, you get up to the $100,000, $200,000, you're talking another mortgage. So that's really where the rubber meets the road, and why it's been such a struggle for people out there is it's almost impossible to fit it into your budget without coming up with some other type of repayment strategy. And so that is part of what we're going to discuss today, is some of the income-based repayment plans and how those can help you. But I mean, isn't it crazy to think that Bernie's proposing a 50 basis point charge as a way to pay it back?
It's an interesting way of going about it. Political stuff aside, it's just taking from one group of people in order to try and alleviate the problem for another. I think it's a creative way of going about it. I don't know if that's the right way to do it. I was just reading an article just the other day talking about if you wipe away debts for all people who are student loan borrowers, the problem is that's just going to make the colleges go out and charge more, because now there's going to be more demand from the community at large to actually take out student loans.
Because colleges need to charge more, right? I mean, they're not making enough.
Of course. They got to build a couple more stadiums, a couple more nice dorms.
It's crazy. And so that's where really, I think, where Ian and I agree is that the colleges need to be held more accountable in this process. And one interesting thing that we came across is that Purdue University has come up with a more creative way to align themselves with their students, and it's an income share agreement, which basically means that the student agrees to basically give back a certain percentage of their income to the university over X number of years until the debt that they borrowed from the university is paid back. So it definitely puts the student on the same side of the table
Sure.
as the university, and the university is more incentivized to help that student make more money.
Absolutely.
Which is a win-win, and a much better way to ensure that debts get actually paid off too. I think that's the issue too. Is too many people can get a loan without any controls.
Yeah. I think one of the attractive things to your point is that colleges will then try and ensure that their students get good paying jobs. Some of the people worry about those type of agreements because it'll eliminate some of the students going after the not so high paying jobs. But I think is
that a bad thing?
That's not a bad thing.
I mean, let's like throw away the hopes and dreams kind of thing. I mean, there's a little bit too much of that coming from the colleges.
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, there are plenty of people that need to be in those types of jobs, but not to the extent that the people are enrolling.
And I think that's one of the main takeaways we want to give people is don't take on more debt than what your job is going to be, right? You want to make sure that you are taking the appropriate amount of debt for the type of job that you are going to look to come out of college with.
And that means basically if you are going to be an engineer making $50,000 coming out of college, you shouldn't be borrowing more than $50,000, and that will help ensure that you can afford those payments. Because it's when the debt amount starts, the debt balance, it creeps beyond what you're going to be making on a starting salary, is when it really becomes problematic, and you almost always have to rely on these income-based repayment plans. So what that is there's the IBR plan, which is income-based repayment, and that's 15% of income. Then you have pay as you earn, which is 10% of income, and then you have revised pay as you earn, which is 10% of household income. So understanding the nuances of those is really important if you're going to be selecting from one of those plans, because even though they're 10% of income or 15% of income, they have little bells and whistles attached to them that can make it more expensive for you than you realize.
Yep.
And a lot of people aren't prepared for the tax hit at the end. They don't realize that if you're not in a public sector job, that the debt that gets forgiven at the end is taxable.
Which can be a big amount, right? I mean, think about it. Let's say if you have $100,000 in debt and you're not paying that off while you're in school, the interest is accruing, and then you log into one of these income-based repayment programs for 20 years, because generally speaking it's 20 or 25 years until they get forgiven. The amount of interest that can accrue on a loan like that can be astronomical by the end of 20 years.
It's compound interest, but in the debt
it's working
providers,
against you.
It's in their favor.
So then it's viewed as income, and you're taxed on that, which can be, if you're not ready for it, can be a big spike in terms of how many taxes you're going to pay for that year.
Yeah.
But that's obviously thinking ahead of it, and that's dealing with it, is the income-based repayment. You kind of talked about public service loan forgiveness for people working in the public sector. I know that's, especially for people who are doctors, is a big plus. And some people have been fumbling through that process. Is kind of the news, right? Is that now that people are actually starting to try and use that program, that there's a lot of people who are applying for it and then not getting it. What
I think it's 1% of the people that applied actually got their debt forgiven. But it was really the first round for it. So it's a little bit misleading, because a lot of the people who applied had no business applying. They were just seeing if they could qualify. Right. And then there's another portion of people out there that just didn't follow the specified qualifications that you need to do in order to qualify, which are, you got to be in a public sector job, which just because it's a nonprofit, there are different types of nonprofits. It's got to be a 501c3. And so some hospitals do qualify, some hospitals do not. It depends if they're a for-profit business or a nonprofit business. And then in addition to being a nonprofit, you need 120 qualifying payments. You can't be paying 5 payments up front and then having that count as 5 payments. If you make 5 payments ahead in 1 month, that just counts as 1 payment. So a lot of people make that mistake too. Or what I've often seen is they're just not in an income-based repayment. They're in one of the extended repayment plans that don't qualify. And there's actually a lawsuit out about that to help people with that. But the key really is knowing how to execute the proper mechanics of it. And I think too often people hear half of it right, and then they don't execute the other half right.
Yeah. It's a sweet sounding deal, but you got to make sure that you follow through on how to make sure that you get the benefit.
Yeah. So we actually have a blog post on our website about how to qualify for public service loan forgiveness. So please visit our blog and just type in public service loan forgiveness, or look at our college planning specific search, and you'll be able to find it. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed our episode about student loan planning. There's much more to come, given our focus around college planning in general. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thanks so much.